Hey guys, so if you're new to my channel is focused on self-improvement, and currently the topics that I'm discussing are related to fitness. So one of the questions that a lot of people have is, I want to start getting in shape, but I don't know what are the best methods to go about doing this. So in this video, this is for the person that's just starting off, that's wanting to transform their life. This video is going to break down some tips and steps that you can follow in order to transform your body. This is coming from someone that used to be about 215 pounds at my heaviest to currently sitting at 168 pounds. I'm sub 15% body fat. I have fully visible six-pack abs. So I know what I'm talking about. So continue watching this video and I'll break down exactly how you can go about doing this. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you avoid these mistakes as a beginner. So a lot of times when people first start out working out, obviously they're very hyped up and motivated, and they sometimes will go a little too overboard and then burn themselves out. So you don't want to start off with some sort of advanced bodybuilding routine that someone that's been lifting for several years is doing, because what's going to happen is you're going to end up burning yourself out and then you're just going to give up. So what I recommend is slowly easing into it. Start off with the beginner program. The one that I recommend is from Jeff Nippard. He has a beginner program that worked really well for me in the first 1 or 2 years that I was lifting. And it's science-based. It uses a lot of clinical studies to find exercises that are the most beneficial, that'll give you the most bang for your buck. So I definitely recommend checking out his program. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you are tracking your progress. So a lot of times when you're first starting off in the gym, a lot of people won't track their progress. They'll just go in and just do random exercises, or they'll have a workout plan, but they won't keep track of how many reps they did and how much weight they used. So I'm sure you've heard this, but the basic principle of working out and gaining muscle and transforming yourself requires the concept of progressive overload. So progressive overload is basically just pushing yourself a little harder every workout. So anytime you do an exercise when you're first starting off, you'll notice that you'll be weak at an exercise. Then over time, your body gets stronger and adapts. So as you increase weight, your body will get the stimulus to build more muscle in order to compensate for it. But if you stick to the same weight and the same amount of reps, then your body will stagnate. It will not get stronger and it won't adapt. So you want to keep making sure that you progressively overload. Now, how do you make sure that you progressively overload? You do this by making sure that you're tracking your workouts. And the easiest way to do this, some people prefer actually having like a physical notebook or something to write down their workouts in. What I actually recommend is just using your notes app on your phone. A lot of times it's a little bit easier, so you don't have to make sure that you have a pen and notepad with you at all times when you're at the gym, on top of everything else that you have to have packed. So just use your notes app and just write down what exercise you did, how many reps you did, and how much weight you used. Once you do that, you'll want to make sure that you, in some way, either increase the amount of reps that you did the next week that you do this workout, or the amount of weight that you're using. And as a beginner, you can probably get away with increasing the weight amounts a lot more each week by maybe 5 pounds or 10 pounds. But you can also just increase the weight by, I don't know, 2.5 pounds. Progress is progress regardless of how small it is. So that's another thing to keep track of. And that's going to help motivate you. And as you get stronger and you start doing more and more weight, it'll motivate you to stick to it because you're seeing that progress. And not only that, if you're a beginner, your body will naturally start transforming really rapidly. A lot of times beginners can completely change their physique and burn fat and build muscle at the same time, which is a lot harder for people that have been working out for several years. So just kind of briefly breaking down what I mentioned so far. So we mentioned how you want to make sure that you don't do too much when you're first starting off. You want to slowly ease into it. And you want to make sure that you are tracking your progress and doing progressive overload. Another thing is to make sure that you do a routine that's easy to keep up with. What I recommend is doing a full body workout 3 times a week because it's a lot more easier to fit into your schedule. Now, granted, it will take you at least an hour and a half to 2 hours to complete a full body workout, but at the same time, you're only having to do it 3 days a week as opposed to going in 4 or 5 times a week, which can be a lot harder for some people. So, what I always recommend is trying to do a full body routine, hitting all the major muscle groups. Another great workout plan or exercises that you should incorporate are doing big compound movements. Big compound movements will provide you with the most bang for your buck. Examples of big compound movements are things like deadlifts. Deadlifts basically work your entire posterior chain. So it works all the different muscles of your back. Just everything on the back of you is going to be worked when you use deadlifts. Squats will work your lower body. It'll work your quad, your legs. It's wonderful for that. Bench press, which is the most common and most famous of the compound exercises, if I had to say, and that'll work your chest, your triceps, your shoulders. It's a great exercise. Obviously, it's one of my favorites. It's usually every gym bro's favorite. So those are some of the major exercises. There's also overhead press, which primarily works your shoulders, gives you more of that capped look. So just focus on those exercises as well. If you don't have a workout plan, just doing those alone, you'll start seeing quite a bit of increase in your muscle mass. All right, so the next thing to do is to make sure that your diet is on point as well. So one of the most important things when you're working out is making sure that you are hitting your protein requirements. Now, there's so many different studies, there's so many different varying discussions about how much protein you actually need. Some people say you can get away with only 0.7 grams per pound of body weight. And then there's other people that say you need a minimum of 1 gram per pound of body weight. And there's so much varying studies on this. I would just say, as a rough estimate, I think the easiest thing to do is to just get 1 gram per pound of body weight. It's a lot easier to keep track of, especially for a beginner, and that'll just make it a little easier. And what I like to do is I like to make sure that I try to eat, which granted, they say that you should have your protein spread out throughout the day, but I found it's actually easier for me to just try to get the majority of my protein needs out of the way earlier in the day. So I tend to eat much higher amounts of protein, and that kind of helps me to be able to meet my requirements, and then the rest of the day I can be a little more flexible with what I eat and eat things that might be a little bit higher in carbs or fat. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're hitting your 1 gram per pound of body weight protein requirement. And then once you do that, the rest of the calories that you have allotted, you can use for carbs and fat, and that'll make it a lot easier as well. And the way you find out how many calories you should eat is pretty simple. You go on Google and just search TDEE calculator. When you do that, it'll show you exactly what your resting metabolism rate is. And then based off of that, it'll actually give you suggestions if you're wanting to cut or if you're wanting to bulk, what exactly you should eat, how many calories. It'll kind of break that down for you. And once you have that number, like I said, first try to hit your protein requirements, and then the rest of the calories that you have left over, use those for carbs and fat. Ideally, carbs are more preferable just because carbs will help to fuel your workouts, especially if you're in a caloric deficit and trying to lean down. Carbs will be very beneficial for that because it allows you to push yourself a little bit harder while you're in the gym. And carbs are basically what helps fuel your workout. It fuels your muscles, it repletes glycogen in your muscle, which will help you to push yourself harder. So in summary, if you follow these suggestions, you'll be on your way to starting off on a great footing, and you will see great progress in your workouts. So if you found this video helpful, I'll continue to make more videos like this for people that are starting off and are beginners. My goal is to try to help as many people as possible to transform their life for the better. And If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you drop a like, subscribe, comment. It really helps me out. If there's anything that you want to see or want me to discuss, just let me know. And if there's anything that I can do to improve my videos, drop that down as well. I'm always open to criticism and feedback. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Solstice signing out.